Our next question comes from Alvin. When you go for half guard underhook, half guard shell, deep half, or even half butterfly, which reaction would trigger a particular guard, and is there a link between them? This was something that Alvin and I had talked a little bit earlier, and I told him to forward it to this question because it is interesting, an interesting topic. To, like, out of all the different kinds of half guard, why would we go to certain ones?
Yeah, that is a good question. I would say the primary answer is range. So like if, and the next answer would be the level of skill that you've developed in the position. So if Rory's out here and I'm trying to play deep half guard, probably not going to be the best. By the same token, if Rory's already like kind of give you the underhook, if Rory's this close and I'm trying to play half guard shell or half butterfly guard, unless I'm quite bendy, not the right answer. So that like that's the easiest. If we have to have like a simple, when do we choose which? His chest position. If his chest is not fairly close to or connected to me, and his hips are not quite close, and he's not in front of this knee, then the different shell variations, knee shield variations, butterfly hook variations start to become more viable. And these are the ones that we prefer.
Yeah, and then you can have these ranges where it's very small adjustments of where it can go, and it can also be dictated on what Rob was kind of talking about, was like with your own game and where you want to funnel stuff. Because right here at this range, we can have half guard shell, and it wouldn't be very difficult for Rob to now insert that butterfly hook if he wanted to. So it comes a choice on what he kind of prefers from there. Yeah. Does he want to control that inside space of the legs a little bit more and be able to elevate, or does he want to have some of the different attacks from that half guard shell? And then at the same token, it could be very easy for Rob to go from half guard shell to just a regular shin shield Z guard. But at a certain point as well, if I start to get in super tight against this half guard, this Z guard, for Rob to actually bring his leg out and try and go to a butterfly guard, it's not going to happen. Or same here, like even in this position right here, very difficult for Rob to get that butterfly hook in. But if he can kind of turn to his side a little bit and start working that knee in like this, it's going to be easier for him to work back at that range. So you can have things that a few of these guards that are right there at the cusp of the same distance, but one might be preferred to you, and then in those certain little range battles, one might be more accessible than the other, even though they're right there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our primary decision point: is what is the appropriate range for this guard. The second is what is your level of skill. Like if you're quite good at deep half guard, and you suck at half guard shell,
yep,
then you probably, or half butterfly guard or whatever, then you might want to just let people in, or it might be more efficient for you to cultivate, like, with deep half guard, for instance, if we're out here, I mean, yes, it's difficult to get in here, but there are ways to do it. If we apply some sort of Kazushi off balancing, same thing. Like normally, I don't want to seek an underhook half guard if someone's this far away from me, because the attacks are just obvious. If I start moving into him, he's got all these blocks that he can throw into me, and he can attempt to pass off of those attempts. But if I just, grab up on a 2-on-1, then, I mean, we're in the process of putting the underhook half guard module on the site, and we talk about Kazushi being necessary and how to use different entries. So if you're just good at deep half guard, or like really good at deep half guard, you might want to go like learn one good hand fighting sequence that creates that A-B option that gets you to an underhook, and then don't worry about the rest of the underhook stuff, just hold them into deep half guard. So if you're like really fucking good at deep half guard, it's gonna be more efficient for you to find 3 or 4 ways of just always getting to deep half guard than it would be for you to develop the other forms of guard.
Yeah, and so like Rob was saying, we really like the ranges, especially for us in our body type. Yeah. Obviously, some people like Cal likes to play more at the other end, at the closer range. So like for me specifically, I like to play half butterfly now. I really like Gordon Ryan's instructional on that. That's been adding elements to that game. But before that, I was working on Z guard a lot. And so that was one where it's like they're both within that same range. I was working on Z guard because I didn't like half butterfly that much. But then as my skills improved with half butterfly and my knowledge, I was like, actually, this ties in better to my game.
Yeah.
And then as we start getting into more like closer range and look at, like for me, because of my style and my length, if I start working into like underhooks from half guard for the most part, and especially in the deep half, it's usually because I fucked up.
Yeah,
and it got a little bit closer where now I'm forced to work within this range that still great things can happen, but it doesn't afford me the safety net of all the different ranges and the frames and stuff. And it's like, if I make a screw up, it's going to be catastrophic at this point.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, the longer you do this, the more you'll be able to, like obviously we're far enough along where, I mean, we play pretty much all of the styles of half guard.
Yep.
You don't really play underhook half guard.
No.
But you play knee shield, Z-guard, butterfly, and deep.
Yep.
Based on this. So there you go. I still play underhook half guard. Like against you, I actually play underhook half guard. Whereas that's probably the style of guard that I use the least against most other people, because Rory's very good at stopping any of my open guards. Like if Rory's standing passing, it's very difficult to sweep him because of his skill and his height. And when it comes to passing half guard, like Rory does a lot of pressure passing, and we've spent so much time in the half butterfly guard and the Z guard that getting you from there now is no longer a thing. But getting you from underhook half guard has started to be like it's opened up a gap.
I can pressure you to get to a certain point of success for myself, and now out of necessity, Rob has been developing. Like he's always used it, but he's using it more than ever against me at that one range, because I win a bunch of range battles, and then he's got this really good, strong wall of defense that then ends up pushing me back.
Yeah,
we go through that cycle.
So because I'm at the in a stage of my jiu-jitsu career or whatever, where I've been doing this shit for 20 years. So I can pick all these different tools. So where you're at in your development, if you've got a couple of tools and it's going to take you a few years before you're really good at the next style of half guard, then definitely do what we said. Like find, if you're good at half butterfly guard, get yourself there. Find the ways to get yourself there. But on a long enough time scale, make sure that you're always adding more tools. So you can be the deep half specialist. You can find your 4 or 5 ways to get to deep half for a little while, so that you're like as effective as you can be when you want to in rolls, or especially when you're competing. You've got to have a game, but then over time, add to it, because like the great thing about that is I can solve all these different problems. As Rory presents a more and more of a challenge for me, I'm still able to address it. Like I think I said this a couple of years ago. I was like, man, I'm no longer going to be able to keep up with you guys, like you and Matt and like the younger black belts, because I'm fucking 45 and I'm old and creaky. But because I've continuously added all these different skill sets, I'm still able to hang with younger, more athletic black belts, because I just have a wider selection of tools. So the half guard is actually a really great microcosm of that. You can super specialize, you can select them for ranges, and then over a long enough period of time, you should learn all of them.